little or no light is reflected from it onto the plate, and very little current will pass through it. The current is then radiated into the receiver of the telephone set, where the telephone coils pick up the energy or current and send it over the line to the wired photo receiving set. On the receiving machine, these currents are then transferred into corresponding lines on a photographic negative wrapped on a similar drum. Let's stop this drum and look inside. The light that reaches the negative comes from a neon tube into which our current has been fed. A neon tube is used because it will react more quickly to current than an ordinary tube. With lots of current, it immediately becomes bright, and with less current, the tube dims quickly. An opening on this machine, similar to the one on the sending machine, allows only a small amount of light to go through to the negative at one time. The whole story of wired photo transmission, then, is simply this. A lamplight scans the original picture. A white spot on the picture makes a lot of current. Lots of current makes lots of light on the receiving machine, and so exposes the negative more heavily at that point. A black spot on the picture reflects no light back into the photoelectric cell, no current passes over the telephone line, the neon tube remains dim, and the negative is not exposed. We have merely unwound the original by lines in terms of lights and shadows, and wound it up again on the negative. The negative now goes through the regular routine. It is developed and printed and made into a half-tone engraving called a cut. Put into the form, it goes with the page to be made into a mat, then a mold, then a part of the roaring presses. Before the advent of wired photos, days were required to send a picture from coast to coast by train and hours by airplane. Now, it is only a matter of minutes after a news event has occurred before newspapers all over the country are carrying pictures that tell the story more graphically and completely than the printed word. Pictures sent from any location by simply picking up a telephone and calling the paper.
Even before the familiar telegraph key came this first Morse instrument, whose spark set fire to the world of communication. Sure, Western Union was boots and saddles, the golden spike in the railroad tie, singing wires, and the growing pains of a great nation. But everybody knows that Western Union did a job. The telegraph wire tied the cattle markets of Kansas to the tables of the East, hitched the cotton mills of New England to the southern plantations and the New York cutting tables. Other methods of communication were slow and tedious. The telegraph was the only means of rapid communication. It was direct, it was fast. It kept pace with the nation's expanding frontiers.
All late, what do you read? What do you read? All late, they're all late. What do you read? What's your paper, mister?
Globe.
serve the communications needs of America. The news peg of the story is one of the finds of that search. High-speed facsimile transmission and reception of both words and pictures. In a matter of seconds, 3,500 words are sent and received. Here is a look into the future of communications. A long way from the early key that clacked out dot and dash messages. Here is modern telegraphy at work, sending and receiving in facsimile, placing all of a vast system at the user's elbow. Here is telegraphy today, hurtling millions of words across thousands of miles automatically, guided and controlled by the magic brain of an almost infallible system. Speeding messages to destinations with just the push of a button, to better serve America everywhere, to bring distant friends and business customers within arm's reach through the swiftness of the yellow blank. A long way from the old hand-to-hand relay from point to point, slow and at the mercy of human error. Here is the thin white ribbon of words, unchangeable, accurate, moving the message it carries lightning fast. Visible transcript of the sender's thoughts, actual record of what has been said. Here is telegraphy on wheels, roaming the streets of outlying districts to bring telegraph service right to the front door. The radio beam tower and its amazing capacity of 2,000 telegrams at a time on a single radio beam. That's a long way from the one telegram on one wire of a century ago. From this telegraph center of the world, headquarters of Western Union in New York, comes a telegram for America. Western Union is proud of its record through the first 100 years. A record of service and progress, which, in the needs of today and plans for tomorrow, keeps pace with the tempo of a fast-moving age.
What's tomorrow going to be like? What kind of world are we going to live in when we get our permanent furloughs? Super-speed highways? Plastic Packards? Streamlined cities? What does the future hold in store for us? To get a glimpse of that future, Army-Navy Screen Magazine presents a new department, Tomorrow, previewing our post-war world, the job opportunities, the new fields ahead. For the first in our Tomorrow series, let's look into a brand new development, television. Here's an expert with the lowdown on the inside facts, Dr. Orestes Caldwell, editor of Electronic Industries and former member of the Federal Communications Commission.
I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak to you men and women in the service of America. I believe in this world to come. I think it's going to be a pretty good world. But I've been asked to tell you about television, so I'll trim the philosophizing. Television is most certainly here to stay. It's going to brighten the world of your home. But more important to many of you, it's going to create a lot of new jobs. Now, none of us like crystal gazing, so let's take a look at what is actually happening now. 9 experimental telecasting studios are already operating, with pre-war equipment and skeleton staffs. While the electronic industry is busy finishing its war job, a handful of people, girls, ex-vets, older men, are keeping the television field alive, experimenting, ironing out kinks, but proving that television will definitely be part of American life when the go-ahead comes. Sight teamed up with sound to bring the world to your easy chair.
behind the caravan, still used for transport, rises their modern grain elevator. They built a fine new technical school where young men are learning to use machine tools and thus reduce Iran's dependence on foreign manufactures. They point with special pride to their rapidly expanding medical school, in which young people are being trained to fill the serious shortage of doctors. Some of the students are women, evidence of change disturbing to the conservative Muslim clergy. Medical care has not yet reached much of rural Iran. About 90% of the people live in villages like Kinare. Kinare exists because it has water drawn by this primitive hoist. 3 centuries ago, elaborate irrigation systems operated. The land fed twice its present population. Today, this hoist reaches only 60 feet. Its capacity, 2 goatskins, about 8 gallons of water a minute. Here the people of the village come to wash their clothes. And in this same water, they do their dishes. They see nothing wrong about having the sheep and goats come to drink at the same source from which they draw their water to take home for cooking and drinking. A girl named Zara carries on her head the quart of water she's walked half a mile to get. There is no school in Kinare, so Zara has not heard of the dangers of bacteria in drinking water. Kinare is cold and dusty in winter, hot, even dustier, and much more uncomfortable in summer because of the flies. At home, Zara's mother makes bread from wheat flour that was the family's share of the crop. The landlord owns the fields and also the house in which Zara and her family live. Sickness breeds easily here. It comes from dust, flies, unclean drinking water, and often just from too little soap, because soap is expensive. Main food is bread. Only occasionally are there vegetables and a little goat milk. Meat is scarce, so the diet is mostly bread and not much else. Yet for all their poverty, these people are kind and decent, honest, honorable, and friendly. Their bedding is the most precious thing they own. They have a copper samovar, a broken kerosene lantern, a teapot, a few cups and saucers, a mirror, and a picture of the Shah. Together with their clothing and cooking utensils, these things are all that this hard-working family owns. The house has 2 rooms, a sleeping room upstairs and a cooking room downstairs. This is the only stairway. Mother is baking bread this morning. Although Iran is rich in oil, oil products are still too expensive for this family, so Mother walked 15 miles to gather twigs for her fire. As Zara's father, Mustafa, walks to work, he realizes that he is neither much better nor much worse off than his neighbors, who are neither much better nor much worse off than most of the 16 million people of Iran. And as he works in the fields with the landlord's oxen, he knows that little has changed in Kinare in 25 centuries. There is still the old system of land ownership, which sometimes requires the tenants to pay 80% of their crop for the privilege of working the owner's land. The only change is Mustafa's clothing, and now a steel tip on the wooden plow. Like most people of the Middle East, Mustafa wants the benefits of mechanized civilization. Change is coming as the great natural resources of Iran are developed. The most important resource is oil. At Abadan is one of the world's largest refineries, built to serve customers of many nations. Developed by British interests, Iranian oil has been the subject of bitter dispute. With no tradition of mechanical experience, Iranian technicians are developing skills to operate complex machinery. High industrial wages have attracted men from all over the country to work in the unfamiliar angle of technical equipment. Men from the highland tribes, men from the city bazaars, have put on the workman's helmet. This, then, is the new man of Iran, a man who looks with hope to the time when, with further development of industry and her great natural resources, Iran may know again some of the glory it knew when Darius ruled at Persepolis over the mightiest empire the world had ever known.
because here, in fact, is the answer to a dream as old as man himself, a giant of limitless power at man's command. And where was it science found that giant? In the atom, a particle so infinitely small that it takes over 100 billion atoms to make up the head of a pin. Just as other millions and quadrillions of atoms are the tiny building blocks which make up everything in the world. Ships, and shoes, and sealing wax, and cabbages and kings. Although no one has ever seen an atom, scientists have learned a great deal about how they behave, and there are widely accepted theories as to what they're like. Let's start by meeting a leading authority on the subject, Dr. Atom. Now, observing the professor himself, we can see that his structure resembles, in many ways, something almost as vast as the atom is small, the solar system. And there are certain similarities. Here is the center with electrons in surrounding orbits. But whereas the planet's movement of electrons is slightly different, there are other differences too. Hey, hold it! Thank you. Now, the solar system together is electrical. The electrons, which are negative, are attracted by the protons, which are positive, and vice versa. But here in the nucleus are other particles with no electrical charge, called neutrons. Very important characters, too, as we shall see. And equally important when it comes to atomic energy is what scientists call the atom's binding force. It's a kind of cosmic glue holding the nucleus together. This, then, is a single atom, but certainly not all atoms are alike. There are in nature more than 90 basic elements, which is science's term for families of atoms. To scientists, the atoms of the individual atom families, or elements, are identified by number. That is, the number of protons or positive charges in their nucleus. And they vary all the way from hydrogen, which has just 1 proton, to oxygen with 8 protons, to gold, he's rich with 79, finally on to the heaviest of all natural elements, uranium with 92 protons. Now, within each element, or family of atoms, there can be different members, each one having the same number of protons, but differing in the number of neutrons. The total of an atom's protons and neutrons is its atomic weight. Thus, in natural uranium, we have U-234, U-235, and U-238. These different members of the same element or atom family science calls isotopes. Some elements, tin for instance, have a great many isotopes. Others, like aluminum, are lone wolves with just 1. Now, most atoms of most elements are content with their lot in life. We speak of them as being stable, but others are busy day and night, being what science calls radioactive. Like radium, throwing off powerful rays along with some of its neutrons and protons, until it actually alters its own nuclear structure and changes to another family, and then to another, until it does become stable at last. This spontaneous changing of elements is called natural transmutation. Its discovery gave men of science an idea. If an atom could change itself, why couldn't man change an atom? Using as bullets the very particles which radium threw off, a noted British scientist bombarded nitrogen and converted it to oxygen. In terms of individual atoms, this is what happened. The radium nucleus threw off an alpha particle consisting of 2 protons and 2 neutrons. One of the protons was absorbed into the nitrogen nucleus, turning it to oxygen. This was artificial transmutation, man changing the elements. From that first experiment, others by the thousands followed as scientists devised ever more powerful particle accelerators, commonly called atom smashers.
terminals go in. A communication pattern develops that serves the growing needs of my town. And to give my town the top telephone service it needs and expects takes a lot of money. And that's where accounting comes in. It has to keep track of all the money spent and received so that the company may know where it stands financially. All bills and invoices come to accounting for checking. And they keep all the cost records necessary to prepare the company's financial reports. They have charge of the records that document the location, the type, and the size of telephone plant. And here, too, are prepared the paychecks, an event of never-failing interest to every employee of the company. Accounting also prepares and mails the customer's bills. And there's more to that than the mere say-so. An array of data processing equipment handles a customer's bill, from the first step of listing the customer's name and address, through the successive stages of computing the bill and preparing it for mailing. All over town, telephones are bringing people together.
Bradford's Jewelry? May I speak to Mr. Bradford, please?
Thank you, Mrs. Chase. I'll have the order over in about an hour.
Hi. Going to the dance? My town gym. Sure.
Arnold speaking. Why, hello, Pete. How's things in my town?
Things are pretty good in my town. There's a sense of growing prosperity, growing pride, growing happiness. And the telephone company is a grateful participant. Now, we've seen the parts played by the various operating departments, such as traffic, whose operators handle many of the calls. Plant, which installs and maintains the equipment. Engineering, where all the planning and designing are done. Commercial, which is responsible for many customer services. And finally, accounting, where all the financial records are prepared. Working in support of these operating units are the company's staff departments, such as personnel. Personnel helps to develop and train people in all levels of employment. They handle benefit and pension plans, pleasant reminders of earlier days. They also watch over the health of the employees and arrange for medical attention whenever they need it. An equally important staff section is the legal department, which checks all company contracts and represents the company in court actions. Public relations is also one of the company staff departments. It is largely responsible for keeping the public informed about the company. Its members write news releases for the community newspapers. They also prepare newspaper advertisements that promote various telephone services. And they coordinate activities that deal with radio or television shows. They prepare films and other programs for employee and public groups. And they take part in arranging telephone open houses to which the people of the community are invited. The preparation of the company magazine is also the responsibility of public relations.
Well, Mike, we've had our problems in putting this together, but there have been many excellent comments.
That's the reassuring part of it, Mr. Bolton. Now I think we've reached the point where we need a good story to wrap the whole thing up. Now, I have some ideas I'd like to talk over with you.
Good. Let's see now. The previous articles have covered all phases of our company's operations.
That's correct. And now that we've explained what we do, I think we should show how we fit into the big picture. How we're backed up by AT&T, Western Electric, and the Bell Labs.
Good times make good Christmas. Big payrolls from the steel mill, the engine plant, the weaving mill. Plenty of money in town, and it went to buy food and clothes. The same all over the country. Machines making cheaper goods and more of them, and new kinds of products. Quite a few new stores, too. A lot of the young people got selling jobs in those stores and clerical jobs in the offices. Not so long ago, either. My own youngest daughter got married. A Christmas marriage. Rang all the church bells in town. We thought prosperity would last forever. We were able to buy good products, shipped from other industrial towns, from everywhere in the U.S., and we shipped our goods in return. The wheels kept going around.
Then the wheels stopped. We thought prosperity would last forever. Now it was over. We hoped it would return. But the machines were idle a long time. So were the men. It wasn't the fault of the machines. We can't blame them for depression. In fact, machines had often created jobs. But now there was depression. I never thought I'd see it. Snow on those rollers, 2/3 of the town on relief. Then when recovery began, when there were orders for steel again, the old mill stayed shut. The years had brought a new method, a new machine, automatic high-speed strip mill. For every 30 men who worked before, now there is one. No more strain on the back and shoulders. No more work for 3,000 families.
Automatic, high speed, powerful, accurate, never gets tired, never gets sick.